Surgers at Dave's Bernina in St. George and Provo.
0% interest for 18 months on certain machines. See store for details.
Purchase a new Bernina L890.
Get free gifts worth up to $1,600. Take advantage of $1,000 off the Bernina 475 QE.
Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Dave's Bernina has big discounts on the Bernina L450, 460, and the L850 and 860 machines that include lots of free extras.
Amazing bargains on trade-ins, classroom, and demo machines that come with warranties.
Starting at $399. You'll love 20% off Surger feet, Surger studio cabinet, and Surger luggage.
Berninas provide unmatched quality and ease of use. Hurry in to Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Dave'sBernina.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Will new tariffs impact small businesses? Rising costs and economic uncertainty can hurt your bottom line. But with Swish Funding, your business can stay strong. We offer fast, flexible funding solutions from $10,000 to $2 million for working capital, cash flow, and more, and as little as 24 hours with no collateral needed. If your business earns at least $50,000 per month and has been around for over a year, you could qualify today. Go to SwishRadio.com and use code GROW. SwishRadio.com, code GROW.
It's hard to believe, but summer's right around the corner. Make sure your home stays cool with a brand new air conditioner and get a free furnace for next winter. That's right. When you purchase a premium air conditioner or heat pump from Whipple Service Champions, you'll get a brand new furnace absolutely free. You just pay for the labor to install. This deal won't last long. Schedule your free estimate today. Book online at whipplethataway.com. whipplethataway.com.
Everyone needs a checking account, so get the one with built-in benefits to complement your unique lifestyle. Mountain America's MyStyle Checking has perks no one can pass up. You'll enjoy sizzling restaurant deals, peace of mind mobile phone protection, timely telehealth access, built-in identity protection, and clutch loan rate discounts. Make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits require no cost registration or activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
No accidents, no delays on the Valley freeways, but downtown drivers be aware. Crews are working on a crash at West Temple and 9th South. Murdoch Chevrolet, a home of 2.9% for 6 years on Silverado 1500. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Some clouds and a high of 67 in the forecast today. Then we'll see a gradual warming trend. Tomorrow expected to hit 69, Thursday 78, and then Friday 81 degrees. Right now it's partly cloudy and 64 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
President Trump may move forward with the deportation of Tren de Aragua gang members. That's according to a narrowly split ruling from the United States Supreme Court. But those who are set to be deported must receive due process. They must receive notice of their deportation under the Alien Enemies Act and must also get their day in court to plead their case as to why they shouldn't be deported. And the courts in D.C. cannot hear the cases. They must be heard by federal courts where the detainees are being held prior to deportation. We have a lot to talk about on this today. Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Erin Ryder, here with our one and only producer, Andy Cupp.
Hello, Erin.
Hi, Andy.
It's good to be with you.
It's fun to pull you out from behind the booth and have you on the microphone today.
Hey, there we go. People, if you hate me, then just send a text message and I will read it. So.
Yeah, when you send text messages in, they go to our producer, Andy Cupp here, and then he gets them to us. So, yes.
So anyway, yeah, This was an interesting story. So it broke sometime yesterday, late afternoon. I was at home actually like sanding down a deck, and my watch just started vibrating. Notification after notification after notification. And I thought that was really interesting. But it was interesting especially to see what the president said about this morning, or maybe it was last night. He said, quote, "It was a great day for justice in America." But one of the things that I thought was kind of fascinating about this, it wasn't a complete win for the president. I mean, he definitely got, I would say, the win compared to, overall. But the courts were especially like kind of specific on, well, they still need to have these court hearings and they still need to have an ability to appeal their deportations. And I thought that part was something that had been missing from the earlier process.
Yeah, and we're going to get into, we've got a couple of segments today where we're talking about some emergency rulings from the Supreme Court. And this is going to get into a little bit of nuance with how the Supreme Court looks at things, because we have to be careful about how we're saying this. The Supreme Court was not necessarily issuing an opinion on the appropriateness of the Alien Enemies Act. They weren't giving Trump everything he was asking for. They just said, no, we're going to overturn Judge Boasberg's restraining order, and but these folks need due process. So let's talk about this a little bit and about exactly what happened here. Like you said, the big thing for me with this is the due process part of this, right? And I believe it was Amy Coney Barrett, or one of them. Actually, no, it was in the ruling itself. Just kidding. It was in the ruling where the court says that the Fifth Amendment pretty clearly identifies that. Okay, here it is. They say it is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in the context of removal proceedings. This is something that was hotly contested in the initial thing. Does the Alien Enemies Act give the president the ability to just say, you are a member of Tren de Aragua, and therefore we are deporting you, and you are gone, and you are now in El Salvador, or wherever we're sending you? And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. Because even if you are not a citizen of the United States, you still have the right to due process under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
And that's an interesting thing, too, is that it applies to everyone. So a lot of the arguments that I've seen with this is, well, they're here illegally, so they don't deserve due process. But the due process has to happen to establish that they're here illegally to begin with. And so this also then gives them the opportunity, I think, to plead their case as to whether or not they actually are a member of this gang. And I think that's kind of the focal point of this. Not so much of are they here illegally or not. That's a whole separate thing. But because of the Alien Enemies Act and what the president's specifically focused on, it's are they a member of this foreign gang?
Yeah, and when I talk to people about this and they brought up that concern, well, these are not citizens, why are they entitled to anything under the Constitution? What this really comes down to, and the best way that I can think of to think about this, is due process basically means you have to prove that the person who you are trying to deport is the right person to deport. And that is due process, right? And that's fair and that's appropriate. And we have seen where the Trump administration has not given due process, and they have accidentally caught up people who are here legally, or even citizens, into some of this. That is a problem. So, okay, well, let's listen to a soundbite. So this was a divided Supreme Court. They ruled 5-4 last night that a federal judge cannot block President Trump's further use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged Venezuelan gang members. But they did affirm that there's a role for the courts to play, and it's setting the table for the future challenges of the president's use of the 1798 law. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reports.
The High Court did not say that the president has properly invoked the wartime authority, nor did it find that the Tren de Aragua gang qualifies as an enemy of the U.S. But the majority did say that challenges to deportations under the Alien Enemies Act cannot be brought here in Washington. The justices say going forward, every detainee who would be deported under the 1798 law must first be given notice and the chance to seek a judge's review in the federal district where they're being held.
So, Aaron, one of the things that I have a kind of a legal question for you on this is that the challenges cannot be brought to a D.C. court, but have to be brought to the federal district where those folks are being detained, being held. What are your takes on that? Because it seems like it's a very specific, there's got to be a legal precedent or reason for this.
Yeah, and that's typically how courts operate, right? Like a court has to have jurisdiction over the issue. And often jurisdiction is determined by where the issue or where the case is taking place. And so you hear about terms like forum shopping, right? Where people are trying to choose courts based on how they think judges are going to rule. Jurisdiction tries to get away from that by saying, no, you can't just randomly choose a court that you think is going to be friendly to you. It has to be a court where you're located. So if you're trying to bring these proceedings on either side in Washington, D.C., yet all of the people are being detained in Texas, well, Washington, D.C. doesn't really have any jurisdiction over that, right? So it needs to be where they're located. Now, the ramifications of this are that the Texas courts are much more conservative than the D.C. courts. So how that influences the ultimate, decision as these detainees bring their habeas claims, I don't know.
No, that is going to be an interesting thing. Let's listen to another soundbite here from ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran.
But the ruling was narrow, the court's majority holding only that this case was brought in the wrong lower court, so litigation likely to continue. And this is huge. All 9 justices of the Supreme Court agreed that courts do have the power to review the president's actions under that 1798 law, and that each and every Venezuelan migrant scheduled to be deported must get due process. That is advance notice of the deportation and a meaningful opportunity to challenge it in court.
Yeah, now this is something that's really interesting, and the court will often do this, and I think it's important to call this out. The Supreme Court will often issue a ruling that isn't necessarily a ruling on the merits, but it's a ruling on the process. And that's a lot of what's happening here, is they're saying we have an issue with the process. These folks were not given due process. These are habeas petitions. Habeas means that you have the ability to challenge an unlawful incarceration, right? So these people are entitled to that. They're not getting it. It needs to be in the proper jurisdiction. But they are not ruling on whether or not the Alien Enemies Act is the right thing for the Trump administration to do. So that legislation still sits out there.
So they're really careful about trying to set an overarching precedent. So they go very narrow on this in particular.
Yeah.
Somebody texted us in, and they actually had an interesting question here. ICE can kind of take them wherever they want to. So you mentioned foreign shopping, if I want to take something to the 5th district versus the 9th district for, liberal or conservative. What's to say here that ICE agents couldn't just take them to a more conservative place then, where they are more likely to get a ruling in their favor?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think some of that is going to be limited in just how the deportation process works generally. If you're taking someone to a detainment center, there are only so many of those in the country, right? So you're not necessarily taking someone to a detainment center in Montana because you're trying to forum shop in Montana. Most of those are located in Texas or in certain areas around the country. So, but I don't know. That's some of that is just how the ICE deportation process is going to work. It's a good question, though. All right. Well, we have more to talk about with the Supreme Court. We're not done here. The back and forth, do I have a job or not, continues today for probationary federal workers recently laid off. A lower court judge had told the Trump administration to reinstate those workers, but now the Supreme Court says not so fast. More on that coming up next.
Troy, I don't know if you know this, but we're a big deal.
Are we?
Oh, yeah.
Can you be a big deal and still live with your mom?
Who do you think told me? But honestly, who else but Bitches brings back show pricing on all RVs this far into spring just so everyone gets the best price possible?
That actually is a really big deal. No one does that.
See? We are a big deal.
The sale is a big deal.
The big deal is talking.
Get into Bish's RV for second chance show pricing for a limited time.
We're talking travel trailers starting under $129 per month on approved credit.
Clearance pricing on all remaining new in stock 2024s.
And enjoy 0 payments until July. OAC.
And here's the really big deal. Every RV purchase gets free propane refills for life as long as you own the RV.
Start shopping the best deals now at Bitches.com.
Don't miss your very last chance at the best show pricing deals around. Only for a limited time at Bish's RV of Salt Lake and American Fork, where memories begin.
Based on approved credit, 20% down, 8.99% APR for 180 months. Stock numbers 89912-81734. Subject to prior sale. See dealer for details.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
More confusion today for thousands of federal probationary workers recently fired by the Trump administration. Welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Andy Cupp, and Aaron Ryder. A federal judge ordered the administration to reinstate those employees a few weeks ago, saying that the process for the firings was a problem. Not that they couldn't be fired, but it was the whole process behind it. But this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed that lower court's decision. And now the Trump administration basically has a green light to move ahead with those firings and not have to worry about reinstating those workers. In the last segment, we were talking a little bit about some of the specifics and how the Supreme Court likes to be pretty narrow on their rulings. And for this one, that seems to kind of fit once again. But let's start off with an update from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
The judges basically at the lower court never questioned the government's power to fire these workers. It was just how it was done. But the Supreme Court today said actually these labor unions don't have standing to even take on that challenge. They said that these groups had not shown enough evidence that they are directly harmed to be able to bring this case. And so for now, even as the litigation moves forward, these workers will be off the job effective immediately going forward.
So this, okay, like you just said, right? The Supreme Court, we keep it narrow, we keep it focused. This is super quick. I mean, this was like a 2-paragraph ruling that basically just said wrong entities bringing the lawsuit, and they hand it back down. So there's no decision on the merits of this, on whether or not they can go forward with this, whether or not DOJ was an appropriate entity to be involved in this. None of that was decided by the Supreme Court. All they said was, you've got organizations, you have unions in San Francisco filing, and they don't have standing. They're not harmed by this. Those particular groups are not harmed, so they can't bring the legislation. That's all they said.
Well, and that's such a fascinating thing with the whole standing argument. We talked about it a lot during the legislative session.
I know.
When we were talking about Senate bills here that we're going to kind of update who has standing and whatnot. And this one is kind of neat that it's the unions themselves aren't going to be harmed by it, but the union members, I guess, would be. So
if they're one of those fired people.
So
yes.
I mean, walk me through that kind of a process then of standing. Is if the union is supposed to kind of represent those workers, but the union itself is not harmed, do the workers then almost need to form their own union to go up against the government to show that they were harmed?
Yeah, there are a lot of things about this that we are going to see as time unfolds. Because, for example, there's a federal judge in Maryland who earlier ruled this month, issued a preliminary injunction that reinstated some of the employees that weren't covered in the case before the Supreme Court. So you have a judge in Maryland saying, no, you have to bring these people back. But then you have the Supreme Court with an entirely different group of people saying, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but these were the wrong groups to bring this in the first place. The thing with standing that's important to remember in the judicial system is that the whole point of standing is that you have to feel some sort of harm. There has to be a harm for you to bring something before the courts. And that makes sense, right? If you are not harmed, you can't bring a lawsuit on behalf of me, Andy, if you are not harmed by it, because otherwise you would end up with tons of frivolous litigation that would cost an enormous amount of money. It would tie up the courts in unnecessary litigation. The point of a lawsuit and the point of getting before the court is I have been harmed by the action of another, and therefore I have standing. I have a reason to bring this claim before the court. So if you have unions that the Supreme Court is looking at, and maybe it's because they're representing people who aren't, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know exactly. The Supreme Court didn't give us enough to really say why they thought that. But for whatever reason, these unions are not the right people to bring this. And like you said, it ties in very much with what we talked about during the legislative session. If you are an organization that doesn't have any members, and, we're talking about the redistricting case, right? If you're the League of Women Voters, but you don't really have members in the League of Women Voters, the League of Women Voters as an entity is not harmed. That entity is not harmed through redistricting because that entity doesn't vote. And so that's kind of where this is coming from. You need the right people to bring the case because they're the people who've actually been harmed.
And I guess I
see you pondering.
Yeah, because that takes me right back to the union, because a union is different than this whole redistricting thing in that the union actually does have members that pay dues, that vote on things. So I'm a little...
And I want to be clear, the court isn't saying that unions can't bring the lawsuit, right? Again, we don't know exactly why these folks didn't have standing. It's not terribly clear. We just know that they felt like they were the ones that did not. It could be that they were in San Francisco. It could be that, who knows? It just says they didn't have standing to sue. So for whatever reason, those entities were not the right ones to bring. Now, the Maryland case is interesting because that's a totally different group of people. If that goes up before the Supreme Court, maybe they say, yeah, they had standing. Or does the Maryland judge now need to look at this is there another appeal brought before the Maryland judge to say, well, maybe these guys don't have standing? So there are a lot of things about this that are not yet fleshed out that we're going to see as this trickles back down from the Supreme Court.
And this kind of, I guess, goes back to your whole thing with, what'd you call it, forum shopping.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of pointed that they would go to a federal judge in California where they're bound to be more union-friendly. But I guess where does this go from here then? If the Supreme Court says, okay, they don't have standing, is it done, or do they pass it back to the lower court and say, do you think they have standing again? Like, I'm curious why it's not just done and somebody else now, a different person or entity, needs to bring the lawsuit forward.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's ultimately what happens, right? If they say you are not the right person to have standing, it kind of does both. It goes back down to the lower courts, but the right people have to bring the suit at this point. It's really kind of dead from this organization. So you would need the person with the right standing from whatever the Supreme Court's looking for to do that. Now, I want to share a quote from Steve Vladeck, a CNN Supreme Court analyst and a professor at Georgetown University Law Center, my alma mater.
Oh, there you go.
So this is what he said about it. He said, quote, all that the court said here is that the nonprofit organizations who obtained an injunction in San Francisco weren't the right parties to challenge the mass firings. It's another win for Trump, but once again, only with regard to who can and can't sue and in which courts. Other challenges to the mass firings have already resulted in rulings against the government in other cases, and those remain in place. So that's where, this is specific just to this one case, not to all of the federal workers and all of the cases that are being brought.
And it's still not a complete 100% win for the Trump administration. Though,
right.
Because it's just based off of the process and not the merits.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, this is where the nuance of the Supreme Court gets really interesting, right? Because and courts in general, oftentimes, really the role of a court is to rule on the issue at hand. And when you hear people talking about judges legislating from the bench, that concept means that they're overreaching the issue before them. They're going beyond the issue before them, and they're inserting their own opinion as law as to what they think should happen. But really, the courts are supposed to just stick to the issue at hand. They're supposed to stick to the exact question before them, and they answer that question and that question only. And a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with appeals, that means that if an appeal gets overturned, sometimes it means the entire thing is done if they issue a ruling on the merits, but sometimes it just pushes it back down to the court below, and they have to go through the process again. This is also why litigation can take years, because you're bouncing back and forth between courts as you're trying to get things sorted out. Welcome to the American judicial system.
For reals. I can just imagine the frustration of being one of those probationary workers. Like, just the back and forth. Do I have a job? Do I not have a job? What happens now?
Yeah.
I
know. It's a lot.
That is a lot. All right, when Inside Sources returns, let's talk about the tariffs, and let's talk a little bit about some of the countries that are trying to negotiate with President Trump on getting a better tariff rate. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top local story this hour. The Salt Lake City Council is expected to vote tonight on the city's future sports and entertainment district around the Delta Center. The city will vote on whether to approve a new legal entity to help finance the nearly $2 billion project. Delta Center renovations could potentially start as early as next week if the council approves. Federal workers in Utah aren't sure how this decision will impact them. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson explains.
I spoke with representatives for Ogden's IRS workers and with people at Utah's National Forest Services office. Neither group was sure how the Supreme Court's decision would affect them or their workers. One federal worker who was laid off last month but was recently reinstated told me he wasn't sure if he would be impacted either, especially since he was just rehired. Verl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national stories from ABC News. The markets are still in roller coaster territory as the majority of President Trump's global tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says about 70 countries have already indicated that they want to negotiate, but also stresses there will be no reprieve or pause on the tariffs until the deals are reached.
It was a plan that was discussed by the president's entire trade team over the course of many, many meetings, and the president ultimately decided on which way to go.
The Dow is now down by 356 points, nearly a full percent, sitting at 37,610. S&P is down by 90 points, and the NASDAQ, it's down by nearly 2.5%, down 373 points. Weather warming up. We'll check the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I've done multiple different eating plans before. They helped me get weight off, but boom, 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 it all just came back with a vengeance.
Stop wasting time and money on plans that don't work. Trust the #1 weight loss company in America, Soda Weight Loss.
My name's Jim. In 5 months, I dropped over 65 pounds.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm at 21 weeks. I've lost 110 pounds.
I tried to do it on my own, and I think it's discouraging when you try over and over again and you just get nowhere. You have the experts here. If you're on the fence, I mean, if it hasn't worked out on your own, these are the people to do it.
When you start losing the weight, even that first 5 pounds, this enormous amount of confidence starts to build into you. You start to realize, like, oh, this is possible for me.
No shots, no medications, just real results that last for a lifetime.
How about this? When you join Soda Weight Loss with a partner, you only pay for one. Get started now. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Watch Utah Hockey Club games anytime, anywhere with Utah HC Plus, the official streaming platform for your Utah Hockey Club. See games, replays, highlights, and unbelievable behind-the-scenes content of your favorite team for just $14.99 a month. Sign up and start watching today at UtahHCPlus.com. That's UtahHCPlus.com.
As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are 2 very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
A quiet drive on the Valley freeways. That's expected to change this afternoon on I-80, where we have traffic reduced to 1 lane in each direction between 5600 West and 7200 West. We are expecting delays. You want to consider an alternate route. And of course, if you see something happening on the roads, text 57500 into our KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Definitely feels like spring. Today's high 67 up to 69 tomorrow, 78 on Thursday, and 81 degrees on Friday. Just partly cloudy skies. Right now it's mostly cloudy, 64 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Will the massive tariffs placed on foreign countries trigger negotiations and improve the trade imbalance. This is what President Trump has said would happen, but economists are still not convinced. However, there are reports now of dozens of countries already reaching out to the administration asking to renegotiate trade and tariffs. That news did send stocks higher today. All right, Andy, we are talking tariffs. Look, if you don't know what a tariff is, now is the time to go pull up dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster, and find out what tariffs are, because we're going to be talking about tariffs for a while. I think they're here to stay, don't you think?
If they don't stay, the fight over whether or not they stay will continue. I mean,
okay, that's fair.
Like we'll talk about in this next or in the segment after this segment about kind of Congress's role in all of this and pushback there. So that just shows me the fight over tariffs isn't over. And I think even if these tariffs that President Trump is putting in place don't stay permanent because we renegotiate with other countries or whatever, I feel like it's going to be this shadow following people, this like PTSD of all this talk of tariffs, and we're just never going to want to touch that again.
Also depending on what the economy does. But here's the ultimate question, Andy, and you, because you're behind the booth, you have not had to answer this yet. Is Trump playing 4D chess?
Okay, first off, I don't play chess, so there's my answer. No, it's so interesting to see this happen because in some ways, sure, people, I understand the argument of, well, he knows what he's doing. He's a businessman. Well, he's also a businessman who's declared bankruptcy multiple times. So I don't know if I put a lot of faith in him as a businessman. But, I mean, maybe? Because things do look to be improving a little bit. I don't know if I would necessarily trust the stock market because it does swing so much all the time. But I'm actually a little surprised. I will be honest. I'm a little surprised at the number of countries that actually are coming to the table to try and renegotiate what isn't actually a reciprocal tariff, but it's like a trade imbalance tariff. So that was a whole other thing. But I'm a little surprised by the number of countries. And I think if anything, it goes to show that America isn't on its own. Like it brings up the whole isolationist conversation. I don't even know where that would go. But the president might know what he's doing, but only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Here's my thinking on this. And I came to this conclusion, I think this morning, actually, as I was thinking about this. I don't think this is 4D chess. I think what this is Trump governing with nothing to lose. And the mindset of doing something with nothing to lose, you're much more bold, you're much more brash, you're willing to take risks that you may not otherwise be willing to take. And one of the things that's difficult for politicians to do something like this is that you're dealing with re-election. And in re-election, you have a lot to lose. But Trump can't run again. We can have that conversation if you want. But Trump can't run again. And so if this is his last term, I don't think that Trump cares enough about the Republican Party to even care about damage to the party long term. Trump's in it for Trump's legacy, right? He wants vindication. He wants to prove that he's right. He wants a chance to go out there and show that he knows best and that he knows what he's doing. And because of that, he's got nothing to lose, right? He doesn't care about J.D. Vance winning in 2028. He doesn't care, maybe to some extent, but I'd be surprised if he's not operating from that standpoint. So if you've got nothing to lose, and I would bet that a lot of these other countries see that, and the United States still does have a really strong role to play in the global economy. We're trying to strengthen that, actually. Like, even with these tariffs, we're trying to strengthen that. That's Trump's whole point, is rebalancing trade imbalances. Whether or not you agree with it is a different question, but that's what he's trying to do. So if he's got nothing to lose, and a country like Vietnam sees that or thinks that, they're going to come to the table, because he'll push and he'll do whatever he needs to do, and that could have a really, really powerful impact on your country.
Well, let's go a little further north from Vietnam to China.
Yeah.
I mean,
power play here.
we're in a game of chicken.
We are.
I mean, okay, well, we're going to put tariffs on them, so they're going to put tariffs on us. So now we're going to put another 50% tariffs. We're up to 104% tariffs on China.
Mm-hmm.
I'm flabbergasted. Like, that's oof.
Yeah. In fact, let's listen to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt talking about the 104% tariffs on China.
Look, I just spoke to the president about this, and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that she and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
So China has to call first?
The Chinese want to make a deal. They just don't know how to do it. But the president will be implementing these 104% tariffs on China tonight.
Under what conditions might he consider lowering tariffs on China at this point?
It would be imprudent of me to tell you those conditions here from the podium.
Do you think that China knows how to make a deal? They just don't know how to start it?
I mean, it could be. It's kind of this game of who's the bigger kid on the playground. And like you said, President Trump is coming into this, nothing to lose, fist swinging. As she said, if China punches, he'll punch back harder. And I think he thinks he has the upper hand in this. So I think it's will China come to the table? That is the question. But we're not going to the table. Like, we've already made our decision. We've made our peace. As Caroline Leavitt said, as the president said, like, no, this is what we're doing. So if China wants to play ball, then they can come into our court and they can, talk to us about it. But we're not going to make the initiation. And when you look at people, like I know even some of our co-hosts don't love what President Trump is doing with tariffs or with some of the other things, but they also really don't like China. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those few things that a lot of people, when I don't think about like how much it's going to cost me, stick it to China. Yeah, okay, I can see that. And I can see exactly where he's coming from with that one of they're the other big kid on the playground, so let's reassert ourselves. I get that.
Yeah. The Chinese negotiation is the one that makes me the most nervous. I think all the other countries, you get them to come to the table. We end up having a negotiation. I think Trump was more than willing to do that, to roll that back, because he's also concerned about his legacy, and he doesn't want a legacy that drives into a recession, and that's all he's got, right? So Trump will negotiate if he sees opportunity to negotiate. But China, in many ways, is in the same boat as Trump. And in many ways, China has nothing to lose. They want to be the global leader. They are operating that way and have been for years. And they have been doing everything they can. It's the Wild West when it comes to intellectual property and all sorts of things like that. And we've known this for a long time. But China will push it as far as they can push it because they're not going to back down. I worry that we're going to have a very expensive, very dangerous game of chicken between two entities that feel like neither of them have anything to lose and everything to gain by winning.
Yeah.
I don't know. You disagree with me?
No, I don't disagree. I could see that being the one.
I feel like that was a mic drop moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be the wild card of the situation. But I also think if Trump can get China to negotiate, then it also sets a precedent for the future and for all the other countries that know the U.S. is the one in charge.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, because whoever comes out on top with the Chinese-U.S. negotiation will start to set the stage for who starts to run global affairs in the future. And that's the power play we've been dancing around for years. And now we're in a moment where it could go south really fast. Okay, well, coming up next on Inside Sources, we're not done with tariffs. We're going to stick with tariffs, but we're going to discuss the pushback on President Trump coming from Congress. As you may know, Congress has the power to implement tariffs, not the president. So we're going to get into some nuance of the Constitution here. But President Trump is using emergency declarations to do this, and that's not sitting well with some members of Congress. More on that next.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief. The best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Attention, RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to the Layton Hills Mall for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking. Dealers welcome. It's the used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH. That sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Tariffs are federal taxes, and who sets taxes? Congress. There's an argument several GOP lawmakers and all the Democratic members of Congress are making right now as to why the president's recent tariffs orders more or less aren't legal, can't go forward. But Congress is working on this bill to check the president's trade authority. Whether or not it passes is a whole other question. But the White House is also pushing back, saying that the president will veto any bills that cap kind of his powers on tariffs. And you'll recall that the tariffs that he's doing right now, he's doing through like an emergency declaration. Like, we have this emergency, and so the powers can be used by me instead. But it brings up this interesting question and just another kind of fight almost between the legislative and the executive branch over who actually wields the power, who wields the powers of the purse.
Yeah. So the Constitution. This is great. Our listeners are getting like a real deep dive into like constitutional law and
love it.
The judicial system. This is great. I hope you all are nerding out as much as we are. So Article 1 of the Constitution is the article that governs how Congress operates. And Article 1, Section 8 is where you have this list, the enumeration of powers that that are specifically granted to Congress. And tell me what you think as I read through this particular one. Well, this is one of the powers granted to Congress: to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. I mean, that's called the Commerce Clause. It's one of the more powerful clauses in this article. But Congress has a point. It's their job. It's specifically enumerated in the Constitution that it's their job to regulate commerce with foreign nations. Now, I think the question is, what does Congress do with that, right? So just because it's enumerated and given to Congress doesn't mean that Congress has to enforce it. They can allow the president to do what he's doing, right? Just simply through an action. But here's what this bill would do as proposed. There are 4 things. First, it would require the president to notify Congress of the imposition of new tariffs and increased tariffs within 48 hours and provide an explanation of the reasoning for the action. Second, the administration would have to give an assessment of potential impact of imposing or increasing the duty on U.S. businesses and consumers. You can see where this is coming from, right? Also requires that new tariffs sunset after 60 days unless Congress passes a joint resolution approving them. So, all right, President, you can do whatever you want to do. You can implement these tariffs, but they end in 60 days if we decide we don't want to go forward with them. So that's an interesting one. And it also gives Congress a pathway to cancel the tariffs before the 60-day period expires if they pass a joint resolution of disapproval.
It's interesting because it seems like they're okay with President Trump putting these tariffs on then, but they do almost want to just maintain this. Well, we still do hold the power.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to pull that back.
We still can do what we want. And here's, I guess, a little kind of constitutional-esque question, and I probably already kind of can estimate what your answer will be. I mean, the Constitution seems to be fairly direct, but that it's Congress who's supposed to be doing this. But people also are incredibly frustrated with Congress for not doing anything. Not necessarily for, they don't fight back and push back on these tariffs, but just kind of in general.
Yeah, general inaction. Sure.
And so I can see where a lot of people who are supporters of the president would be very excited for this, good or bad, just because he's doing something. And even here, we've talked about kind of the pushback that congressional representatives around the country have gotten when they've held these town halls, and people, why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you pushing back? The frustration with Congress is still there from the American people.
Yeah.
And I don't honestly see them calling a check on what President Trump is doing, for better or for worse.
Yeah, so that's where this gets really interesting, right? Because technically under the Constitution, if you read it that way, then Congress has commerce authority, and they should be doing this. And the inaction of Congress is one of the reasons why we have seen such a spike in executive orders over the last several years and the last several presidencies, right? This is not just a Republican or a Democrat issue. Every president recently has had an increase in executive orders. It is because they get frustrated with Congress. They feel like nothing can happen, so they issue action by executive order. But because of how the Constitution is written, if Congress does not adopt the executive orders as law and pass law implementing, enshrining those executive orders are subject to die as soon as the next president comes in. And that's what we see, right? You get Biden, who comes in and undercuts a lot of Trump 1.0 executive orders, and now we have Trump 2.0 undoing what Biden did, and it bounces back and forth, and it's difficult on the country because you get no stability, you get no long-term action, and that's really what Congress is supposed to do, is to pass law and move policy forward. They're the legislative branch. The president is supposed to then execute on that action, and right now it's reversed, where the president is trying to drive policy through executive order, which is fine if Congress decides to put it into law, which is why this bill is interesting, right? Like, okay, President, you can put the tariffs out there, but we ultimately have to pass this as law or those tariffs go away. I mean, that really is how it's supposed to work. Now, I don't know that it goes anywhere. I don't know that Mike Johnson has any intention of really, we'll see. There are some Republican members of the Senate in particular who have joined in on this. But this is what Mike Johnson said. He said, Congress will weigh in on it, but with the president and the administration in tandem. You got to give the president the runway to do what he was elected to do, and that is get this economy going again and get our trade properly balanced with other countries. So, yeah, I don't think that this Congress is really going to push back on President Trump very much, but we have midterms next year, and that could change the dynamic.
That's fair. I do think it's an interesting thing, like a predicament for business leaders, though, because if I were a business leader who has a lot of my operations overseas in Vietnam, these tariffs might be one of those things to kind of push us to, I'm going to move my business operations over to the U.S., but I don't know that I would put all of that investment in, knowing that, it could change with the next president. This might only be a short 4-year thing. And, I don't see it as being a huge impetus for change unless Congress actually adopts it. And it kind of looks like they might adopt what he's doing more so than adopting the bill that you were reading, which would put kind of limits on him.
Yeah. And, that's what you do hear from a lot of people in the business community. I don't really care what the law is. Just give me the stability of knowing that it's going to be there. And, because, if we're talking about trying to incentivize trade and factories and things like that to come into the United States, that's an entire operation that has to be moved from overseas into the United States. You're not going to do that if you think that Vietnam or Taiwan or some of these other countries are still going to be your best bet long term. You might just kind of wait it out, charge higher rates to customers, and then see what happens 4 years from now. But again, right, when we talk about nothing to lose, members of Congress have a lot to lose because it's their constituents who are calling them saying, you need to deal with this or I'm not voting for you again. So you have an interesting pain point between the two here.
Yeah, and I just go back to the thought of businesses didn't leave America overnight. It was a long, drawn-out, over-the-decades process.
Yeah.
And so I do worry a little bit about this kind of expectation that they're immediately going to come back, but we'll see. Maybe they don't come back, but maybe we get better deals with other countries. All right, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, let's go local, talk about some federal cabinet members in Utah, or taxes, relationships with Canada, all of that and more after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top local story this hour. Daybreak residents are sharing their thoughts about having the Salt Lake Bees in town ahead of their first game in their brand new stadium tonight. Lifelong baseball fan Scott Steele says he's excited to have them right by his house.
I'm stoked. I think it's phenomenal to have a minor league baseball team in our backyard. I can literally walk, 15 houses and get to the stadium. We're excited for the amenities that come around.
His kids, Ari and Dylan, agree.
It's freaking awesome. I've always wanted a baseball team here. I think it's really cool.
Steele says he's not too concerned about many potential changes that this could mean for the neighborhood, whether it's noise or traffic. Other neighbors say they are hopeful that things remain unchanged. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has weighed in on the firings of federal workers facilitated by the Department of Government Efficiency that had probationary status. More from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
A federal district court judge put a hold on those, said the Trump administration need to reinstate those workers, that it was likely illegal the way that they were fired. But today, the Supreme Court reversed that decision.
We have reached out to several federal agencies located in Utah, and they say they are unsure how this ruling is going to impact them right now. Taking a look at your money at the close, the Dow, what a huge swing for the markets today. Earlier today, the Dow had been up by 1,400 points. It's ending the day down 356 points or a full percent, sitting at 37,610. S&P 500 down by 90 points. The NASDAQ down by nearly 2.5%, down 373 points. The weather's looking up, though. We'll check the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary. A peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to OGG.com to find a retailer near you. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
You know when you're racing into the store and someone interrupts you with a petition and you just sign it so you can move on? Stop. Don't sign it. Unions are trying to overturn a law that protects our kids. By signing, you're supporting handing over your tax dollars to big unions so they can push their radical agenda into classrooms. Stop the unions. Stand for kids. Tell your friends and family. Decline to sign the union petition. Utah Parents United paid for this ad, not authorized by any political issues committee.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. And here's Ricky Meese.
We've had an accident with possible injuries in Murray, northbound I-15 at the I-215 junction. The lanes of travel are now open, but where we had a right lane blocked, we have delays almost back to 90th South in Sandy. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Nice forecast for the beginning of the week. It looks like today's high 67, climbing up to 81 degrees by Friday, and partly cloudy skies for most of the week. Right now, mostly cloudy, 64 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
During their visits to Utah, 3 members of President Trump's cabinet praised the state for its work along the lines of health and food and transportation. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joined EPA Secretary Lee Zeldin to discuss some of the state's recently passed bills, including the banning of fluoride in drinking water and making soda and other sugary snack foods ineligible for food stamps and SNAP benefits. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy took a ride on Frontrunner, discussing the importance of transportation and Utah as Utah continues to grow. Welcome back to Inside Sources, our second hour. You've got Aaron Ryder here with our producer, Andy Cupp, sitting in our other seat today. So let's talk about this. Actually, before we do, let's listen really quickly to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking about the Utah legislature's decision to ban fluoride from our drinking water.
It makes no sense to have in our water supply. I'm very, very proud of this state for being the first state to ban it, and I hope many more will come.
Okay, and then one more on his thoughts on Utah's push to ban soda and snack foods from being purchased with food stamp and SNAP benefits.
We are encouraging governors from all over the country that allow the SNAP program, the food stamp program, to exclude soda drinks and some other substances that we know are dangerous to our children. We believe in choice. Every American who wants to eat a donut ought to be able to eat it or drink a Coke. The federal taxpayer should not be paying to poison our children.
What do you think about this, Andy? What do you think about Secretary Kennedy coming to Utah? I mean, Utah's getting a lot of attention for being the first state in the nation to ban fluoride. And we're actually getting some attention for this SNAP benefit ban as well. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about this?
I mean, it's kind of yesterday when I was at home, I got a push alert first from AP News saying that Secretary Kennedy was calling for a national ban on fluoride in the water. I got that before I got it from the local things because we already did it here. But I think it's kind of neat almost, regardless of how you feel about the fluoride situation. That's not even what I'm talking about. It's that he came to Utah because Utah was making an example and then taking that and saying, okay, we should do this on the national stage. And that I find kind of fascinating. Like, okay, he's interested in what Utah is doing and wants to replicate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what he was here for. He wants to what he wants to do. So the EPA actually regulates how much fluoride can go in the water nationwide, and then each community decides whether or not to use it and if they want to use it up to that full allowable amount. So that's why both of them were here. You had Lee Zeldin and RFK Jr. because RFK wants to work with Lee Zeldin to eliminate or change the allowable amount of fluoride in water. So that's where that was coming from. But he does have this push to make it a national thing. And you talked about Utah's influence here. I was at a presentation recently with a couple of our legislators, and they were asked the question, with the Trump administration pushing so much, or at least attempting to push so much responsibility back towards the states, how is that going to change the responsibility of state legislatures in the future as in terms of making decisions? And it was their comments were really interesting and insightful, which I think are relevant here. Utah is the first legislative session to occur in the calendar year. And so anything that happens in Utah happens before any other state does it from a legislative standpoint, which means that a lot of states watch Utah to see how Utah is going to handle certain things, especially when it comes to controversial issues. Some states will wait to see what Utah does before they implement their own laws. And as you see this shift away from the federal government back to the states, You're going to see more money coming into the states to lobby for certain issues. And you're going to see more responsibility on state legislatures to pass laws that may then work their way back to the federal government. And that's kind of what's happening here. Utah passed a law on its own. Now RFK is going to take that and he's going to use that nationwide to try and build support for something he wants to do on the federal level. It's really interesting how those dynamics work.
I'm kind of curious, do you think Utah is ready for that kind of pressure? I see this, and follow with me on this one. Okay, we passed stuff on fluoride, banning fluoride. We passed stuff on food stamps and SNAP benefits. We passed things on flags in the classrooms. Really big things that did catch national attention. Do you think then that going forward, like next year, we're going to see this and be like, oh, well, why don't we do some more big ones? Like, are we going to, I don't know how if I'm phrasing this right.
Like, our britches?
Yeah, more or less. Like, we're going to see that we are important, and then are we going to get to where we're too important in our head and people stop actually caring?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because we've kind of been doing this for a long time, right? Utah's legislature and legislative process in many ways is pretty good. We balance our budget every year. We have to. And the way that we go through and, every bill is germane to the issue of that bill. So we're not passing big omnibus bills that have lots of details and things get missed. We're passing bills one at a time based on issues that we see. I think, if anything, Utah is in a pretty good spot to take on responsibility like this because, and we've actually talked about in one of our earlier shows, Utah's one of the least dependent states on the federal government. We don't rely on the federal government as much as we possibly can. We're a pretty independent state. We try to be. We're a pretty independently spirited state. And I think that actually positions us pretty well to help drive some national policy. Now we're going to argue about it, and those arguments are probably going to get bigger. They're probably going to get more contentious. But I think we're pretty well equipped to have them because we've kind of, in some ways, already been doing this. Do you disagree with me?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think back to some examples of like previous years because I think I really noticed it this year. And so I'm trying to think back to, previous years. Did they do similar things? No, I guess I like the attention. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's cool. We're from Utah. I also wonder if there's a flip side to this because it's so dependent on each administration on the presidential level.
Sure, it could change.
So we're in, good graces right now, and we're kind of a shining star. Does that mean we have farther to fall in the next administration if a more liberal candidate takes over, kind of thing of like, oh, you guys are going to get the shaft. But then also, like you said, we're one of the least dependent states on the federal government, so maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think if anything, if we get a Democrat in 2028, they just re-expand the size of the federal government, but we just continue doing what we've always done, right? The other thing where this is going to be interesting is we also had Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy here, and there's a lot of infrastructure stuff that's going to be coming to Utah in the next 10 years leading up to the Olympics. And how we interact with the federal government there is also going to be, I think, really important and influential in how federal dollars and transportation, because transportation, again, like that's an area where Congress often gets involved and it's part of how they've interpreted the Constitution. So we have a long partnership ahead of us with the federal government, even though we also try to be as independent from them as possible.
Self-sufficient,
yes. Yeah, but we're going to see. I don't know. It's there's a lot coming with this. There are a lot of changes I think that are going to come to the state as we continue to grow, and we're going to have a lot of discussions about that. Some of them are going to be hard discussions, which is why I think it's important now that we start to get used to talking about these things because we're going to have to.
That's
in the
a very
next 10
fair
years.
point. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. In our next segment on Inside Sources, should you expect taxes here in Utah to continue dropping? Speaking about the legislature, we're going to chat with Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evanson to get his take next.
Spring is the perfect time to refresh your home, and Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is here to help. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, plus a free hallway for just $119. And for a whole home refresh, take 20% off upholstery cleaning. Unlike traditional cleaners, Zero-Res uses patented ZR water, a powerful cleaning solution that lifts dirt and grime without harsh chemicals or detergents. That means your carpets and upholstery stay cleaner, longer, and dry in hours, not days. It's safe for kids, pets, and the environment. Plus, every cleaning comes with the Zero-Res Gotta Love It guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, Zero-Res will re-clean for free within 30 days. Don't miss out on these limited time offers because spring cleaning starts now. Get started today at Zerores.com and mention KSL to lock in your deal. That's Zerores.com.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
My name is Mac Davis, and I have been on the SOTA weight loss program for 14 weeks now. I have dropped 38 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's been remarkably easy to follow the program. It's been amazing.
SOTA weight loss works.
Who would have thought that I would be able to lose over 100 pounds? I thought that there was no way that I could do that without having some kind of invasive surgery or a diet pill or some other means.
Let SOTA Weight Loss teach you the healthy, natural way to let go of the weight for good.
The best decision I've made in a long time was just to call SOTA Weight Loss.
Join SOTA Weight Loss with your partner and only pay for one person. Lose weight together.
Double the motivation, double the results, half the cost. Take advantage of SOTA Weight Loss 2-for-1 partner program. Visit SOTAweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. SOTA is, say it with me, state of the art.
Everyone needs a checking account, so get the one with built-in benefits to complement your unique lifestyle. Mountain America's MyStyle Checking has perks no one can pass up. You'll enjoy sizzling restaurant deals, peace of mind mobile phone protection, timely telehealth access, built-in identity protection, and clutch loan rate discounts. Make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits require no cost registration or activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
During the last legislative session, the Utah State Legislature prioritized giving Utahns yet another tax cut for, wait for it, the 5th year in a row. And even though the budget was looking tight, they still found a way to eliminate some taxes, including some taxes on Social Security benefits. There was a recent opinion piece, though, in the Deseret News that I thought was interesting, saying that Utah taxes will continue to fall. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, so I reached out to Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evanson, and he joins us now to kind of give his take on it. So I just, right out of the bat, Jay, why do you think that those tax falls or those tax cuts will continue?
I think it's kind of a core principle among a lot of conservative lawmakers that if they had their druthers, they would just eliminate the state income tax completely, because it's a tax on productivity. Oddly, it's not the most hated tax, because opinion polls tend to show that property tax is the most hated tax, and I think that's because you get a bill in the mail that tells you what you owe. And once a year, you also kind of go through that with income tax this time of year, where you figure out there's all kinds of complications involved in that. And sales tax, you just kind of pay as you go, and nobody even thinks about it. But it's because it's a tax on productivity, and I think it's a principle to many of them, and they would like to get rid of it. I think it would be impossible to completely get rid of it, because you'd have to replace it with something, and we haven't figured that out quite yet.
Well, that was my question for you, Jay. Are we going to get to a point where we eliminate income tax entirely? I mean, there was another state that just did it, right? I think there was another state that just announced they were getting rid of it. But
I think so.
Anyway, I'm remembering seeing that somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I certainly think the legislature would be interested in. I've heard rumors, right? Do you think it happens? I mean, I know you just said it seems unlikely, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, there's a move afoot to remove school funding from the income tax, right? And so that's always been the big problem. We have so many school children in the state, and we've tied school funding to the income tax. And so by removing that and putting it into the general fund and financing it through sales tax or other means, it allows you a little bit more freedom to do things with the income tax. But you would have to greatly increase property tax or sales tax in order to cover what you would lose in the income tax. But if you keep doing it gradually the way they're doing it, of course, at this pace, it will be like 2090 before we get to zero, because they're removing such a little bit every year. But they have gone from a 5% flat tax down to 4.5%, and they're inching their way down there. We'll have to just see what happens over the next few years.
I think I'm definitely the odd one out here in that I would rather my property tax disappear than my income tax, just because of like how you mentioned, I get a bill for my property tax. I don't get a bill for my income tax, so I don't even think about it. And I wonder, how much of an impact it would actually make, because this would just be on a state level anyway. So like federal income tax would still exist. I'm wondering, would I get an extra $20 in my paycheck kind of thing? It might be more than that, but if anything, I do kind of appreciate and think it's interesting the messaging behind this, that the state is looking for ways to cut taxes regardless. And you bring up a good point. Okay, well, if we cut it in one place, as of right now, we don't have another thing to support it. So then that means an increase in taxes somewhere else. That really doesn't go great in terms of messaging. So I'm curious how they would thread that kind of a needle,
and I'm not sure how they would do that. You're not alone in hating the property tax. A lot of people hate that, but there is some room, I think, with the sales tax. What they tried to do, if you remember, a few years ago, was to try to broaden the base by attaching sales tax to all kinds of services, from haircuts to lawn mowing and that type of thing. And that way, you don't necessarily raise the sales tax, but you still raise the revenue from it. And they abandoned that pretty quick. People got upset, and especially I think the accountants, because it would have been some accounting services that would have been taxed, and that lobby got pretty upset. So it's harder to do than you think. But I was surprised because revenues were pretty flat this year. I was surprised they found room to reduce it to 4.5%. So they seem pretty intent on keeping it going down every year.
Now, Jay, well, first of all, I'm an attorney, and I remember when that debate was happening over the services tax, because that was a big issue for attorneys as well. And so I remember that fight. But you referenced in your article a conversation that you had with Natalie Gochner, who runs the Kem Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah. And I had a conversation with her the other day as well, where she mentioned this fact that Utah has now had 33 of 35 years of net in-migration. So that means in the last 33 years, we've had more people moving in than out of the state. And I wonder if some of that allows for decrease of taxation simply because you have more people to tax, so your revenues can stay the same even if you're dropping the percentage. I don't know if you had any discussions with her about that, but I'm wondering if that's part of how the legislature can do this. If we continue to see people moving into the state, and we have jobs in the state, we're growing as a state, okay, then we can reduce the percentage that we tax without really losing much in revenue.
I think that's a really valid point, and particularly on the state level, because the state does gain from in-migration and from the jobs. It's actually the local governments, the counties and the cities, that have to provide police and fire and those services to all these new residents that face a bigger tax burden when people move in. But I think they still come out on top because they share in the sales tax, for example, goes up as you have more people who are buying more things. I tried to look in my column at any kind of correlation between tax rates and migration and growth, and it's really hard to find a connection between those two. And that's where Natalie Gochner came in, and she said, we've had this growth 33 of 35 years, but those were also some of the highest years in terms of housing inflation, housing costs, and it kind of doesn't make sense. You would think that would keep people away, but we keep having in-migration in spite of some of these things, and it turns out that in-migration is a really complicated matter, and it has to do mainly with opportunity, and that is people being offered jobs. And that's where I think tax policy can play a role, because businesses may look to either expand or to move into the state because of favorable tax policy compared to where they happen to be at the moment, and they bring jobs with them. So I think there is a connection between in-migration and taxes, but it's not on the individual level. I think it's on the business level.
That's interesting, and that actually makes a lot of sense. I know my own family choosing to leave California, where there are high income taxes, and move to Wyoming, where there are very low income taxes and very low taxes in general. And so I could see that from like a systemic level of businesses as a whole cutting taxes or not having to put taxes on you because there are no income taxes. I could see how that would be, I'm not thinking of the word, but enticing to you as a business and as a worker.
But you have to be careful too, because there are other amenities that workers are looking for. Not everybody is suited for the Wyoming lifestyle, right? And some people prefer larger cities. There are a lot of things that Utah has going for it. The mountains close to the city, the ski industry, just the reputation of the place is a nice place to live. You don't see a lot of overwhelming growth in places like Alaska, Wyoming, South Dakota, and they have some of the lowest tax rates anywhere in the country. So it's a complicated issue, but I think whatever the legislature is doing, they don't seem to be harming growth. They may be enhancing it in some ways. I always think that government does best when it does nothing, because it can always cause harm by doing things. But the state is growing consistently, and so there must be something going on that's good.
Yeah. Jay Evanson, the opinion editor of the Deseret News. You can read his column in the Deseret News. Thanks for being with us, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, next on Inside Sources, we're going to continue with Utah. Several of Utah's leaders are in Canada today, continuing a trade mission this week. We're going to chat about one initiative that they're looking at that includes partnerships between Canada and Utah's mining communities. Stay with us.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story this hour. 3 Americans who were initially sentenced to death for attempting a coup in Congo last year, they're being sent back to the U.S. Officials say it comes days after the country commuted their death sentences to life. Among them, 21-year-old Marcel Malanga and Tyler Thompson Jr., also 21 from Utah. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Nearly 68 million people in the U.S. speak a language other than English, and there are fears that some of them won't be able to understand emergency weather warnings.
Experts say non-English speakers could be at risk in extreme weather because the National Weather Service has stopped providing translations. A spokesman told the Associated Press the translations are paused because a contract with an AI company that did the translations has lapsed. AI replaced manual translations for several languages in 2023.
ABC's Brian Clark reporting on Wall Street today. The Dow was up 1,400 points this morning, but it isn't now. At the close, the Dow losing 356 points. Coming up, magnificent weather is on the way. You'll find out when and for how long. Coming right up. KSL Weather is next. KSL News Time 2:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it'd go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. 'Cause I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Celebrate National Serger Month with super deals on all sewing machines and sergers at Dave's Bernina in St. George and Provo.
0% interest for 18 months on certain machines. See store for details.
Purchase a new Bernina L890.
Get free gifts worth up to $1,600. Take advantage of $1,000 off the Bernina 475 QE.
Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Dave's Bernina has big discounts on the Bernina L450, 460, and the L850 and 860 machines that include lots of free extras.
Amazing bargains on trade-ins, classroom, and demo machines that come with warranties.
Starting at $399, you'll love 20% off Serger feet, Serger Studio cabinet, and Serger luggage.
Berninas provide unmatched quality and ease of use. Hurry in to Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Dave'sBernina.com.
Attention, RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to the Layton Hills Mall for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking, dealers welcome. It's the used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH. That sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. HarrisRV.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash in Davis County. This is on the exit ramp from northbound I-15 at 5th South, Woods Cross Bountiful. It's to the right. And of course, you can always text us your traffic tips to the KSL Mountain Home Services text line 57500. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL weather forecast, not much drama, just a lot of warmth and sunshine. Tomorrow, we're looking at a high of 69, Thursday 78, and Friday 81 degrees. 64 in Salt Lake City. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Governor Spencer Cox, joined by state business and energy leaders, continue to tour Canada this week on a mission to strengthen trade ties between the state of Utah and Canada. One thing that's been a focus of the visit so far is energy and natural resources. In particular, the amount and kinds of resources available in the state for things like mining. Canada's Fraser Institute has identified Utah as not just one of the most, but as the most attractive location for mining investment. Brian Summers, president of the Utah Mining Association, is there on the trade mission and joins us now. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about this trade mission that you're on. What kinds of conversations are happening relating to mining, in particular in Utah?
Yeah, so we've had a great trade mission so far. We've had the opportunity to meet with a number of government officials here in the province of Quebec. We've met with the Quebec Mining Association, the Chamber of Commerce here, and then also a lot of mining companies, including Rio Tinto, who obviously has a huge presence in Utah as well. And also companies like 5N Plus that actually are currently processing minerals that are mined in Utah and then are brought up to Canada for processing.
So why Canada? Why a partnership between Canada and Utah? Especially when right now, I don't know that our relationship with, do we have a relationship with Canada right now?
Sure, and part of what we're really trying to do in the mining industry, we're very focused on increasing our critical mineral production and ending our dependence, especially on places like China that have over the past number of decades have really cornered a lot of these commodity markets for minerals. And so part of the reason that we're actually working with Canadian companies is because in the case of 5N Plus that I talked about, they actually have existing processing facilities that we don't have in the United States. And so the mineral that's actually coming up here is a mineral called tellurium, which is used for manufacturing solar panels and also solar wafers that go into space satellite applications. And so the tellurium is extracted as part of the processes that Rio Tinto Kennecott there, and then is shipped up here to Canada for further processing, again, because we don't currently have the type of processing facilities needed in the U.S. So we're really focused on trying to find whatever avenues we can to produce these minerals more quickly so we don't have to buy them from China anymore.
So even if we're not necessarily buying it from Canada, it's our own that's going up there for processing, mm-hmm. Is there any effect that tariffs would have on that kind of a process? Or is that kind of exempt from the whole thing?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that it's going to be very productive for me to comment on the tariffs because, frankly, a lot of that's not really clear at this point as it relates to mineral commodities. Theoretically, it could, obviously, if the tariffs apply to certain mineral commodities. But, we're hopeful that given the importance of many of these minerals for national defense and for our economy, that we'll be able to come to a good resolution on the tariff issue.
So tell us more about that. How would this process, how would these negotiations help Utah and really the United States kind of position itself? I assume this is part of being, national defense, like you said, but also energy independence. How does that sort of interplay with what President Trump is trying to do to make us more independent?
Well, and I will say that President Trump has done a really tremendous job since he took office in helping to focus the federal government on energy independence and on critical mineral production. So a couple of weeks ago, he actually put out an executive order that calls on various federal agencies and actually working through the Energy Dominance Council that he set up right at the beginning of his administration to try and increase critical mineral production in the U.S. And so, we've been working with our federal delegation and with federal agencies to help them get information about mining operations in Utah where they have federal permits that have been delayed or, where we haven't gotten the types of approvals or responses that we need from the federal government, and try and get some of these projects unstuck essentially so that we can get to mining and again, produce these minerals domestically so that we don't have to rely on foreign supply chains. And especially, again, with China, I mean, in the last number of months, they've put export restrictions on a number of mineral commodities that we need for manufacturing and especially for national defense.
So tell us a little bit more, too, about the actual minerals that are available here in Utah. So obviously we've got copper, with Kennecott. We think of coal country. Yep. We have, how did you pronounce it? Tellurium is the
Tellurium,
one up there. So what are some of the other ones that we could become, well known for if we're not already known for?
Right. Yeah, Utah has been incredibly blessed with a very, very rich and diverse mineral estate. So we actually have 40 of the 50 critical minerals that are on the current federal list of critical minerals. We're not producing all of those right now, obviously, but we have the opportunity to produce many of those into the future. So currently we are producing a number of critical minerals, and some of those are coming out of existing operations like Rio Tinto Kennecott, where, again, these are minerals that can be recovered from what we call secondary processing, which is essentially pulling more minerals out of waste streams and other processing operations. And then we're also seeing some of our mining companies that are using their existing processing facilities, like the uranium mill, for example, that we have down in Blanding, where they're importing minerals from other parts of the country and even other parts of the world and processing those to recover things like rare earth elements. And so we do have great opportunities to expand our mineral production, both using existing facilities and then also doing the sort of traditional exploration and mine development, for primary recovery that, we've done historically here as well.
So, Brian, with just the last minute that we have here, how will the furtherance of mining, development in the state affect economic and other types of development in the state? Do we see this as something that's going to help the state continue to be, number one on all of these lists? How does this going to interplay with people development and growth development?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mining jobs are some of the highest paying jobs we have in the state, and especially in the rural parts of our state. So the more mine development we can do here, the better off we're going to be economically. And also we feel that Utah really has an opportunity to be a national leader on the critical minerals front. And we're actually working as the Mining Association with other industry associations and with state agencies to put together a critical mineral strategy so that Utah can really lead out on this on a national level.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Brian Summers, president of the Utah Mining Association, for joining us, and good luck in Canada.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. In our final segment today on Inside Sources.
Life finds a way.
It finds
You'll
a way,
just
Aaron.
have to wait and see what that's all about. Life finds a way. We'll be back.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it'd go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Join KSL News Radio's Amanda Dixon this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Salt Lake NPS Store, 1600 Empire Road, npsstore.com.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1.
Oh, yeah. You know your skin is the largest organ of your body. Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my superhydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet?
RV wins!
Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping?
RV wins!
Cleaning the fridge or taking a trip to the beach?
RV wins!
You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, mold.
We clean out the fridge, then take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
Troy, I don't know if you know this, but we're a big deal.
Are we?
Oh, yeah.
Can you be a big deal and still live with your mom?
Who do you think told me? But honestly, who else but Bitches brings back show pricing on all RVs this far into spring just so everyone gets the best price possible?
That actually is a really big deal. No one does that.
See? We are a big deal.
The sale is a big deal.
The big deal is talking.
Get into Bish's RV for second chance show pricing for a limited time.
We're talking travel trailers starting under $129 per month on approved credit.
Clearance pricing on all remaining new in stock 2024s.
And enjoy 0 payments until July. OAC.
And here's the really big deal. Every RV purchase gets free propane refills for life as long as you own the RV.
Start shopping the best deals now at Bitches.com.
Don't miss your very last chance at the best show pricing deals around. Only for a limited time at Bish's RV of Salt Lake and American Fork, where memories begin.
Based on approved credit, 20% down, 8.99% APR for 180 months. Stock numbers 89912-81734. Subject to prior sale. See the other details.
Hi, it's Julie from Logan. If there is sunshine in your soul today, it's because you know you're headed to Logan for a springtime getaway. Here's what you should do. Reserve your hotel room right now. Don't miss the original Baby Animal Days Festival at the American West Heritage Center April 10th through the 12th, including exotic animals and living history. Then it's farm animals only every Saturday in April and the first Saturday of May. Cuddle all the baby animals like lambs, goats, piglets, bunnies, and chicks. You can say you're doing it for the kids and grandkids, but we won't tell if it's really just for you. Total cuteness overload. Next, head to the Cache Valley Fun Park for laser tag, roller skating, bowling, and arcade games. Take your family to Angie's for the kitchen sink, a mountainous banana split on steroids served in an actual sink. Pick up a life supply of goldfish crackers at the Pepperidge Farm Factory, or see them hand-dipping chocolates at the Bluebird Candy Company. Head to Logan to cure your spring fever. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
It's not possible. Listen, if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, it's that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but, well, there it is. There it is.
You're implying that a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Life finds a way, Aaron. And apparently it found a way with the dire wolves. They're making a comeback. Feels a little Jurassic Park, but it's real. Listeners, I just want you to know that for the tease, just before this last commercial break, I asked Aaron to do a little awoo here on the radio because, you know, it's a wolf, and she said no. But there we go. You heard it here first. Okay, so dire wolves making a comeback through a similar kind of Jurassic Park feeling thing. I don't know if there's Ember involved this time around, but Aaron, tell us about it. You were excited for this story. She talked me into it. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so dire wolves have been extinct for about 12,000 years. And there's a company called Colossal Biosciences based in Dallas that says it has successfully birthed 3 dire wolves. So this is fascinating. What they did is they took a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull. They pulled DNA from these, analyzed that DNA, and then use that to create these dire wolf puppies. So, I mean, it's interesting because we're, again, it's a little bit of a Jurassic Park thing, hence our intro, because we're looking at what does this mean for species that are extinct that could potentially come back. Now, there has been some pushback on this. Let's see, Vincent Lynch, a biologist at the University of Buffalo, was a little bit skeptical, and his pushback was, look, they're not actually rebirthing dire wolves. What they're doing is they're taking DNA, they're modifying it, and then they're using it, they're implanting it into gray wolves, which are apparently the closest related animal alive today. So these are gray wolves that have been modified to have many of the characteristics of dire wolves, but they're not actually dire wolves. One of the other pushbacks, he said, is, quote, whatever ecological function the dire wolf performed before it went extinct, it can't perform those functions, end quote, in today's environment. So that is also really interesting. What do you do with an extinct animal that you bring back to life in a world that is completely and totally different from the world it lived in before it went extinct? I don't know. There's just some really interesting ethical questions relating to this. What do you think about all this, Andy?
I automatically go to, well, there must be a reason it went extinct. So I'm a little like, okay, this world is, would it survive in this world? Well, maybe it actually would because it didn't survive in whatever world it was in, for better or for worse. I always get a little nervous when they start messing with biology like that, just probably because I know nothing about it. I am not a scientist in the slightest bit. I avoided science classes like the plague. But, I mean, it reminds me almost of, I think there was something similar with, like, the southern white rhino or something a few years ago. One that there's, like, one left in the world, and they were trying to do a similar thing by, like, mixing its DNA with another kind of rhino. And by that point, too, I also get curious of, like, what is to say that this is actually the dire wolf? Like you said, it's more like a gray wolf with the dire wolf characteristics. So is it really accurate to say we brought back the dire wolf?
Yeah. Well, and, like you said, right, is there, you look at this from an ethical standpoint, should we be allowing certain species to go extinct, if they're going to go extinct, and not necessarily from human-related causes like hunting, right? If we're creating extinct species because we're hunting them to extinction, I think maybe that's a little bit separate. And I don't know, maybe you can't separate that out. Maybe the human impact on animals is such that you can't actually separate it out from something like hunting. But if we just kind of set that question aside for a minute, if a species is going extinct, do we have an obligation? Should we be, like you said, messing with DNA in a way to keep that species around? Because each species performs its own ecological function, just like was mentioned here in this quote. I don't know. To me, it's an interesting ethical debate. And one of the other things they did, this company, Colossal Biosciences, they also bred cloned red wolves, which are, and these red wolves are one of the most extinct, or they're on the verge of extinction today. They're one of the most endangered species today. So it's not just the dire wolves. They are also looking at these red wolves and potentially trying to keep that population around. The real question I have, if we go the route of the Utah mammoth, can we get a mammoth?
Well, I remember this story from a month ago, the colossal woolly mouse. So the same company is trying to kind of work through to get a mammoth going, and they're starting very small with a mouse. I mean, at what cost, though? I mean, if you want to take the ethical stance on, is it really worth it to have a real life mammoth as a mascot? I mean, could the ice support that? I start to get into all those logistical questions.
We're having the live. No. This is what we do. We create the live live non-animated version of Ice Age, the movie.
Oh.
So
we need
Did you also see there's a huge crack in Antarctica that they're worried about?
That's true. I did see that. So we also need to get a saber-toothed tiger going, and I'm curious how that would go over well in the Delta Center. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think there's a time and a place for everything, all creatures, big and small. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I was out sanding a deck last night, and I had to stop, not because it was getting dark, but because the mosquitoes came out. I would do anything to get rid of mosquitoes. I see no purpose for them, but I know that there is a purpose for them because they're part of the food chain, and if we get rid of them, it's the whole butterfly effect. What else would happen? And then in 200,000 years, would they bring mosquitoes back because they find it in amber? I don't know. I guess this is why I'm not a scientist, because I'm perfectly content to just, let it be.
And so you went the route of journalism instead.
Yeah, sure. I guess if you really want to get a little snippy.
Yeah, I do.
No,
I do, because you outed me for not doing the howl at the beginning of the segment.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
No, I think it's I think there are marvels of medicine and science, and sometimes you have to do all sorts of crazy things in order to get to that point. But I mean, look at our longevity of life now. Look at our quality of life. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to kind of push for these things. I just don't know if I'm 100% on board. But I'm not the one making the decisions.
Well, like I said, it presents some really interesting ethical questions. One of the classes I took in law school, I wrote a paper, and it was about chimera embryos, the idea that you could grow basically a human organ inside of a pig or something like that. And what does that mean? And you could use the DNA or of the person that needed the organ. And what does that imply ethically? So for me, anytime I see stuff like this, I always think, what are the long-term implications of this ethically?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening to Inside Sources. Taylor Morgan and Adam Gardner are going to be around tomorrow. Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News is up next. Have a great day.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 64 degrees. KSL's top story. A sad turn of events for a Utah girl who was shot in the head in 2017 for 8 years. She's been an inspiration, but now her family says that Desiree Turner has gone into hospice care.
Desiree Turner's family announced today her health has taken a turn for the worse. They say she has developed septic pulmonary emboli, which means blood clots have traveled to her lungs, leading to a painful infection. Her family says she does not have much time left. Desiree tells KSL TV she knows it's time. Turner has been a source of inspiration and light in Utah since she was attacked in Smithfield in 2017. KSL News Radio's Jessica Lowell has that part of the story.
14-year-old Desiree Turner was lured by a group of teen boys to a secluded spot where she was robbed and then shot in the head and left to die. 8 hours after she was shot, she was rescued by a family friend helping with the search. She overcame the odds, undergoing 20 different surgeries over a 2-month stay in the hospital. She was the center of a KSL TV documentary 3 years ago.
I am half blind.
Can you see me okay?
I can see you. You're right in my line of vision.
But you can't see
I can't see anything to the left. My arm and my leg were paralyzed. Well, technically my whole left side. So that included my internal organs, too.
Turner went on to graduate high school and serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She earned her reputation of being tougher than a bullet.
Desiree says she's not scared of what's next. She knows where she's going, and she's ready to get there. Claire Scott, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time 3:02. A pair of 21-year-olds from Utah are coming home to the U.S. Their death sentence for getting mixed up in a coup in Africa has been converted to life, and the government of Congo is letting them come home to the U.S. to serve their sentence here. The family of Tyler Thompson Jr. says he believed he was tagging along on a free vacation with his friend's family when they got mixed up in the coup. Another day of big swings in the financial markets because of the tariffs. Maria Chaleos is live with details at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, the Dow was up more than 1,400 points when news came that President Trump was striking back at China's retaliatory tariffs. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirms a 104% tariff is being imposed on Chinese imports.
It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder.
At the news, the Dow plunged, ending the day down by 320 points, well below the 38,000 mark. The NASDAQ and S&P are also ending down around 2%. A Florida businesswoman is suing President Trump over his tariff policy. Emily Lay is the founder of Simplified, a small business that makes planners and organizational accessories.
Our backs are against a wall, and we're going to have to end up cutting salaries, raising prices, not hiring people in America that we wanted to, or, I hate to say it, but close our doors.
Lay imports from China. She says she'd love to find a domestic supplier that would allow her to remain profitable. She says it's time for the courts to step in. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Federal workers in Utah aren't sure how this Supreme Court decision today is going to impact them. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson explains.
I spoke with representatives for Ogden's IRS workers and with people at Utah's National Forest Services office. Neither group was sure how the Supreme Court's decision would affect them or their workers. One federal worker who was laid off last month but was recently reinstated told me he wasn't sure if he would be impacted either, especially since he was just rehired. Verl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
Authorities are still searching for survivors in the rubble of a nightclub in the Dominican Republic. The roof collapsed overnight, killing 58 people, injuring another 160. Among the dead, a former Major League Baseball player and member of the Dominican Republic's Congress. After the rescue operations are over, they'll investigate the cause. This building was a 50-year-old former movie theater that had caught on fire a few years ago. The Major League Baseball player, by the way, from the St. Louis Cardinals, Octavio Dotel. The final AP Top 25's men's basketball rankings came out today. BYU landing at number 13. The Cougars ended the season as one of the 5 top teams in the Big 12 Conference. But next season, the Cougs are going to have to do it without Yegor Demin. The point guard is declared for the NBA draft.
Today, I'm closing one chapter here, but I'm opening the new one. And I think what is the most important for me is that I'm not leaving you guys here. I'm taking you with me the whole way through my career and through my life. And I'm willing to represent BYU logo and BYU name everywhere I go.
He was always expected to be one and done at BYU, but the fantastic experience left him reconsidering at the end. Now Coach Kevin Young is looking for a new point guard. KSL News Time, 3:05. It's time for First Look Traffic. Ricky, how you doing?
Doing okay, Jeff, but I'm afraid drivers traveling westbound I-80 won't be. We have early onset slowdowns due to the bridge work. Remember, this is affecting traffic in both directions. Traffic reduced, and you are seeing delays as you're approaching and passing 5600 West. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Diet Coke can be real trouble. Stay here. You'll find out why. My minute's on the way. Next.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet? RV wins! Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping? RV wins! Cleaning the fridge or taking a trip to the beach? RV wins!
You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, mold.
We clean out the fridge, then take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This is My Minute of News, brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com. In 1980, there was this movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy.
When something falls from the sky, it can only have come from the gods.
It was a comedy about an African tribe that had no contact with modern society till somebody dropped an empty bottle of Coke out of an airplane and it fell onto their tribal lands, and hilarity ensues. I'm not sure, but I think the movie is offensive now. But you can still rent it because there's this YouTuber that must have seen this movie.
An American YouTuber under arrest in India after visiting a remote island that is off limits to visitors.
24-year-old Mikhail Parakov, with his GoPro camera rolling, showed up on Sentinel Island, home of a tribe that has no contact with modern society.
Police say the 24-year-old recorded himself leaving a can of Diet Coke on North Sentinel Island in an attempt to make contact with the tribe that lives there.
Now, any good Utahn would know that a Diet Coke is a peace offering. Am I right? But there's one problem.
The Sentinelese tribe, which is known for killing outsiders.
Yes, killing outsiders. Like the last guy who tried to make contact 8 years ago, a beef jerky marketer, who was also an evangelical missionary, decided to make contact, and it did not go well.
Fishermen reported they watched as tribe members shot him with arrows. Now advocates for the tribe are insisting that his body be left alone.
That Sentinel Island beach is now John Allen Shaw's final resting place. Meantime, this 24-year-old YouTuber might end up resting a while in prison for confusing comedy and reality in a quest for clicks.
Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News, only on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Ricky Meese is here.
Well, traffic is starting to build just a little bit southbound I-15 Murray and Midvale, but no delays on that southbound drive of I-15 from downtown to Draper and from the Point to Provo. All clear on I-215's Belt Route and the 21st South Freeway. But in Utah County, we have had spots of slowing westbound on Pioneer Crossing, and they're scattered anywhere between I-15 and Saratoga Road. Eric?
We've got some westbound slowing now on I-80 as you go just past 5600 West. We're doing some road work there, and it's down to one lane, both eastbound and westbound. It's on the westbound side right now that you're going to have some slowdowns heading out to Tooele County. Got a crash in Centerville, northbound I-15, just before the on-ramp from Parish Lane, but not seeing any delays there. With IFA's Crabgrass Preventer Plus Lawn Food, you'll stop those pesky weeds before they even start. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. Eric Butler in the KSL Traffic Center.
Just a small hiccup in the forecast today. Shallow cool front passing to the north. The most we see, partly cloudy skies, slightly cooler temps in the upper 60s, and maybe a bit of a breeze. 45 overnight, partly cloudy skies. We're back up to 69 tomorrow to 78 on Thursday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
64 degrees if your kids want a Nintendo Switch 2. They probably know the date it's going to be released, how much it's supposed to cost. Throw all that out the window because of the tariffs. We'll tell you all about it coming right up. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owed that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owed, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and with the IRS offered me to pay $4,000.
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
endtaxworry.com.
Hi, this is Kathy.
And Jason from Window World.
Jason, other window companies are offering their big specials again. What's our special?
Our special is the same low price every day for every customer all year round.
Wow, Window World is different.
We don't jack up the price to offer a phony discount like other companies.
No pressure, no games. Hey, call Window World 801-281-8111.
Or check windowworldutah.com.
Window World. Simply the best.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
I've done multiple different eating plans before. They helped me get weight off, but boom, 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 it all just came back with a vengeance.
Stop wasting time and money on plans that don't work. Trust the #1 weight loss company in America, Soda Weight Loss.
My name's Jim. In 5 months, I dropped over 65 pounds.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm at 21 weeks. I've lost 110 pounds.
I tried to do it on my own, and I think it's discouraging when you try over and over again and you just get nowhere. You have the experts here. If you're on the fence, if it hasn't worked out on your own, these are the people to do it.
When you start losing the weight, even that first 5 pounds, this enormous amount of confidence starts to build in you. You start to realize oh, this is possible for me.
No shots, no medications, just real results that last for a lifetime.
How about this? When you join Soda Weight Loss with a partner, you only pay for one. Get started now. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
KSL News Time, 3:15. The 3 things you need to know this hour. First,
people here in Daybreak tell me they're excited about having the Salt Lake Bees in their backyard ahead of the team's first ever game in their new stadium tonight. I'm KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Second, Salt Lake City Council is expected to vote this evening on the city's future sports and entertainment district, the one around the Delta Center. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
Salt Lake City PD wrapping up a crash. It's way out there, 1400 North 8000 West. And we do have lane restrictions due to road work causing delays. Westbound I-80 approaching and passing 5600 West. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A shallow cool front today, only dropping temperatures just a touch. I'm Matt Johnson.
Right now in Salt Lake City, let's see, we're at 64 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios now. Our top national stories.
From ABC News, I'm Lindsay Davis, anchor of Prime, streaming weeknights on ABC News Live. The White House says the president is not rolling back tariffs and pushing ahead with reciprocal tariffs on more countries. They kick in tomorrow. At the same time, his administration is signaling that they are open to talks, even with China, as it faced stiff hikes. Press Secretary Caroline Levitt.
He believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect.
Stocks rebounded briefly today but lost any gains by closing bell. The Supreme Court issued rulings on 2 Trump administration cases, one weighing in on the mass firings of federal workers led by Elon Musk and Doge. ABC's Devin Dwyer has more.
A federal district court judge put a hold on those, said the Trump administration need to reinstate those workers, that it was likely illegal the way that they were fired. But today the Supreme Court reversed that decision.
President Trump is hailing a decision by the Supreme Court that lifts the block by a federal judge on deportations of alleged gang members under the use of the Alien Enemies Act. ABC's Terry Moran says it's a partial victory.
But the ruling was narrow, the court's majority holding only that this case was brought in the wrong lower court, so litigation likely to continue. And this is huge. All 9 justices of the Supreme Court agreed that courts do have the power to review the president's actions under that 1798 law, and that each and every Venezuelan migrant scheduled to be deported must get due process. That is advance notice of the deportation and a meaningful opportunity